Khabarovsk is located on the easternmost edge of Russia, where the waters of the Amur and Ussuri rivers merge. This city has the spirit of a pioneer and is renowned for its rich history. Once the capital of the Far East, it remains an important stronghold on the country's eastern frontiers. A city of laborers, a city of military glory, a city at the border. Its streets remember the march of Cossack detachments and the roar of modern highways. This is an important stronghold of Russia on its eastern frontiers, where epics, cultures, and destinies intertwine. And to truly understand the soul of Khabarovsk, you must ascend to its natural pedestal, to the place where the history of the city began. Imagine you are standing on the edge of history. Right here, beneath your feet, is a high cliff that remembers everything.
The first reports about the location of Khabarovsk are directly connected to this very cliff. According to a legend recounted in the 19th century by participants of the first Amur expedition in 1854, as they sailed through the Ussuri mouth and further down the Amur near present-day Khabarovsk and saw the high bank jutting forward, Muravyov said, "This is where the city will be built." At that time, a group of pioneers landed on the shore near Khabarovsk, and a prayer service was held to mark the future safe voyage. It was on this very spot that Khabarovsk's first church was later built. Right below the cliff, in the area of the Beria stream, where there was a temporary Goltsi settlement, soldiers from the battalion under the command of Deyanchenko landed and laid the first buildings of Khabarovsk.
It began as a modest wooden church in 1870, and 30 years later, thanks to the efforts of merchants and parishioners, it was transformed into a majestic stone structure. However, in the 1930s, the church met the fate of many shrines. It was closed and forgotten. The altar, where services were once held, became the entrance to a planetarium, showing stars where the Star of Bethlehem once shone. Revival began in the 1990s, and for more than 20 years now, prayers have once again echoed here. The church has been restored and lives a full life, with a library and a Sunday school. The city needed not only spiritual but also strategic support. The gaze of Commander Deyanchenko turned to a formidable cliff, under whose protection, on a narrow strip of land between the great river and a shallow channel, barracks and warehouses were laid out.
The cliff was covered in a very dense forest, entwined with vines and other lianas, and this place was not cleared. It was left as a garden for walks. A small gazebo was built there. This was characteristic of Khabarovsk. Everyone noted the city garden. No wonder that at the end of the 19th century, the future Muravyov cliff was called the Garden Cliff. So, the first connection with the cliff was precisely as a city garden. In 1891, a monument to Count Muravyov-Amursky, the founder of Khabarovsk and the development of Primorai, was erected on the cliff. At the very tip of the cliff there was a viewing platform, where a gazebo was placed.
То есть первая связь с утесом — это именно городской сад. А в 1891 году на утесе был воздвигнут монумент и памятник основателю Хабаровска и освоения Преамурья графу Муравьеву-Амурскому.
The monument to Count Muravyov-Amursky gave the city something more than just a symbol. For its powerful pedestal, a special stone was sought and found not far from Khabarovsk, in the area of the modern settlement of Korfovskoye. Thus, an entire deposit was discovered, and the stone extracted for the monument later became a building material, transforming wooden Khabarovsk into a city of stone.
Already in the 1930s, a water observation station was built here.
Уже в 30-е годы здесь была построена станция для наблюдения за водой.
The cliff served different purposes in different eras. In the 1930s, it was a ceremonial postcard with the best view of the city. But from 1941 to 1945, its image changed drastically. Beneath the beautiful scenery lay a harsh reality. Khabarovsk lived as a city under siege, and its calling card was mobilized as one of the first. The panoramic view became an ideal firing sector for anti-aircraft gunners, who defended the skies with trenches dug in the courtyards and the steely gaze of artillery from this peaceful summit. For 4 years, the city's romantic symbol turned into a combat outpost.
The construction of Khabarovsk's most famous building, the Amur Cliff, is linked to the difficult war years. It was in 1943, according to the design of Khabarovsk architect Peter Starikov, that the modern brick building of the Amur Cliff was erected. Initially, it was used as post number 1 for air defense. According to some accounts, the observation platform where city guests now look out over the Amur once housed an anti-aircraft gun. The approaches to Khabarovsk were studied because the Japanese army was stationed beyond the Amur. So, this was a real combat situation in 1943. In the post-war years, it was initially used as a Ministry of Defense facility and at the same time as a rescue station. Starting in the 1980s, a cafe was organized there, and even a reconstruction was carried out. Side staircases were added, leading to the lower floor. Then, in 2013, this building was transferred to the Khabarovsk Regional Museum and is now a branch of the museum, used for exhibitions and museum events. In addition to the monument and the cliff building itself, various temporary structures were built nearby, most famously, for Khabarovsk residents, the Green Theater, built in 1937, where in 1938 Valery Chkalov's crew performed for city residents after their record non-stop flight from Moscow to the Far East. The plane first landed near Nikolaevsk-on-Amur on UD Island, now Chkalov Island, then took off and landed near Khabarovsk. After that, it flew back to Moscow. It was during this interval, while they were in Khabarovsk, that Chkalov's crew performed next to the cliff.
Из Москвы до Дальнего Востока. Самолет приземлился сначала около Николаевска на острове Ут, сейчас это остров Чкалова, а затем взлетел и приземлился в окрестностях Хабаровска. Затем улетел в Москву. И вот как раз в этом промежутке, когда они были в Хабаровске, рядом с утесом выступал Валерий Чкалов.
The rock holds a history older than textbooks. For the indigenous Nanais, the Amur Cliff remains a sacred place where, according to legend, their people were born. It is a point where myth becomes part of the landscape, and the stones keep the memory of the first people who came here following the spirit of the river.
I would like to tell people who come here to the cliff, to this place, that this is not just some place where we are used to seeing a traditional cliff, this building, yes, but it is also a place where, according to the legends of the indigenous peoples, particularly the Nanais, their people were born. It is said that a shamaness named Mamelji once lived here. She was the daughter of Hada, her father, who also fought. There is a legend about 3 sons and much more. Everything is very mixed up here. But if we speak specifically about the origin of the Nanai people, then yes, according to legend, it happened right here. Mamelji was like the mother of all Nanais. Most likely, she patronized Nanai warriors, and according to legend, warriors also came here to restore their health, to be healed. Therefore, this place also had such a meaning, what we might call a place of power. I am very glad that it is at this place of power that the Nanai games, Apachka, began to develop, because it also began its second life right from this cliff. So for us, for Nanais, for indigenous people of the Far East, this cliff is not just a geographical place where Count Muravi-Yavomersky stands, it is also such a sacred place that we all should know. It is here that the Nanai people were born. There is another interesting legend associated with the cliff, about a young man and a girl. Once upon a time, in olden days, a girl and a young man were walking here, looking at the Amur, and the young man decided to show his bravery and jumped into a whirlpool. Some may have noticed it, and he drowned. Well, that's it, seemingly such a sad story. The girl made, well, this is a legend about the origin of the musical instrument Dachuka, the Nanai violin. She had a birch bark tube with her. She took a stick, cut off a braid, tied it all together, made such a violin, and began to play Me 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 I, and in short, the Amur dragon motor took pity on her and returned her fiancé to her, even better, stronger, more beautiful. And so on this cliff appeared the Nanai musical instrument Dachuka. There were probably many such legends before, but over time, unfortunately, we have forgotten some, maybe we are even trying to add our own now. But I believe it is very important for all of us Far Easterners to remember that it is here that the Nanai people were born.
Временем, к сожалению, мы что-то забыли, что-то пытаемся, может быть, сейчас даже и свое привнести, но я считаю, что помнить о том, что именно здесь родился и произошел нанайский народ, для всех нас, для дальневосточников, очень важно.
Today, people come here not for defense or rituals, but for impressions, panoramas, and a sense of belonging to history. Finding themselves on Khabarovsk's main height, they discover a whole world inside the very cliff. The most interesting question is, what happens here today besides tourist selfies? Here you will find the first regional visitor center Amur Cliff. We are now located right in the souvenir shop. It reflects our local producers from Khabarovsk territory who present their handmade souvenir products. You can see for yourself. Here are interesting keychains with an Amur tiger backing, products branded, made in Khabarovsk territory, handmade items. You can look at wooden items with Khabarovsk inscriptions. Products of indigenous peoples of the north are also presented. These beautiful craftswomen make amulets. How many gift ideas there are. There's something you can eat, something you can drink, something you can read. Someone is obsessed with pink. The further east you go, the closer your heart gets. Such trinkets are written here or there.
Такими штучками написано. Это или то?
Well then, descendants. Now we are in the Amur Hall, where 8 indigenous peoples of the north are represented. In this hall we hold master classes in drawing, film screenings about tourism, lectures, and other events. The Amur Cliff is not just a point on the map, it is Khabarovsk's DNA, its past, present, and future.